I never thought a hug could be the kind of moment that sticks with you. You know, the kind that feels like it's soaked into your skin and your brain at the same time. Well, that's exactly what happened to me the day I met Jamie. And yes, it involved an ungodly amount of glitter. So picture this. It's a blazing hot Saturday in June, and I've gone to the annual Pride Parade in our city for the first time in years. I'm not exactly the party type, more of a watch from the sidelines with a giant iced coffee kind of guy, but this year, I figured, why not? I mean, it's Pride, the air's buzzing with energy, and honestly, I just needed a change from the usual routine. Plus, I was hoping to soak in some of that positive vibe everyone keeps talking about. I'm wandering around the festival grounds, half dancing to whatever pop anthem is blasting from the main stage, half people watching, because let's be real, Pride attracts some of the most colorful characters you'll ever see. There's glitter everywhere, on signs, on costumes, even floating in the air like some weird, sparkly rain. I was just about to grab a drink from one of those vendor tents when I saw him. Jamie was standing a few feet away, laughing with a group of friends. What caught my eye first wasn't his smile, though that was killer. It was the fact that he was covered head to toe in glitter. Like, every inch of skin that wasn't covered by his shirt was shimmering, like he'd just rolled through a disco inferno. His hair was a mess of curls with silver and pink flecks that caught the sun, and his cheeks had this ridiculous sparkle that made him look like he'd just stepped out of a music video. Now, I should probably say I'm not the most confident guy when it comes to approaching strangers, especially ones who look like they walk straight out of a Pride Parade catalog. But something about Jamie made me want to talk to him. Maybe it was the genuine warmth in his laugh or the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. Before I knew it, we were talking. Turns out Jamie was volunteering at one of the booths, but had just gotten caught in a glitter bomb prank by his friends. He was supposed to clean up, but instead he was just rolling with it, joking that he was the unofficial glitter king of the day. As we chatted, the noise of the crowd faded a little, and it felt like, for a moment, it was just us in this sprawling sea of color and chaos. Then, out of nowhere, this huge group of people came rushing through, and I accidentally bumped into Jamie. Without missing a beat, he opened his arms wide and just hugged me. And here's where it gets weirdly perfect. He was covered in so much glitter that as he hugged me, I felt it sticking to my skin, like this beautiful, unexpected connection made tangible. That moment, him hugging me, glitter and all, was the start of something I didn't see coming. But I'll get to that. For now, just know that in a crowd of thousands, in the middle of a noisy Pride festival, one random hug changed the way I saw everything. The funny thing is, I wasn't even mad about the glitter. Usually, I hate getting messy. It's like my personal version of a nightmare. But with Jamie, it just felt different. Like the glitter wasn't some annoying thing sticking to me. It was a reminder that this moment was real, unexpected, and maybe a little magical. After that hug, we just stood there for a second, both a little breathless from the sudden contact and the commotion around us. He looked at me with these bright eyes and said, "Sorry about the glitter invasion. You're a good sport." I laughed, running a hand through my hair, now dusted with sparkly bits. Honestly, it's not every day you get hugged by someone who looks like a walking disco ball. I'll take it. Jamie grinned wider, and I realized how easy it was to just be around him. No awkward silences, no guessing games. Just two people, in the middle of a Pride festival, covered in glitter and smiling like idiots. We started walking together, me getting used to the weird, sticky sensation of glitter on my arms and hands. Jamie pointed out his favorite spots around the festival, the food trucks with the best vegan tacos, the booth where you could make your own Pride flag buttons, and his personal must-see, a tiny stage where local queer poets were performing. We ended up sitting on the grass near the poetry stage. Jamie nudged me and said, "You into poetry?" I shrugged, feeling a little shy. "Not really, but I'm willing to be converted if the poets are half as interesting as you." He laughed, and I swear the sound was like a little spark of electricity zipping through me. We settled into the rhythm of the words being spoken, some funny, some heartbreaking, and I found myself sneaking glances at him. His face was lit by the soft glow of the stage lights, eyes focused and serious when the poem called for it, then breaking into a grin when the crowd laughed. At one point, a poem about self-acceptance hit me harder than I expected. I realized I had been holding back a lot, even from myself, about who I wanted to be and who I wanted to love. Being at Pride, surrounded by people living their truth so loudly and proudly, made me feel like maybe I didn't have to hide anymore. And sitting there with Jamie, this guy who is unapologetically himself, glitter and all, I felt something shift inside me. After the poetry, we decided to wander back toward the main stage. Jamie was telling me about his journey, how he'd come out in college, the struggles with his family, the people who'd supported him, and the ones who hadn't. His story was raw and honest, and I found myself sharing pieces of my own story too, things I hadn't told many people. There was a quiet moment when we reached the edge of the crowd. Jamie looked at me and said, "You know, sometimes I think the best part of Pride isn't the parade or the parties. It's finding people who get you, people who can hug you, glitter and all, and still mean it." I nodded, feeling the weight of those words. Yeah, it's like finding a little island of, "You're welcome here," in a world that can be pretty hostile. He smiled softly and reached out, brushing some stray glitter from my cheek. "I'm glad I found you today." My heart hammered a little faster. I wanted to say something clever, something that didn't sound like it came straight out of a cheesy rom-com. Instead, I just said, "Me too." We stayed like that for a while, just standing close, the sounds of music and laughter swirling around us. At some point, Jamie leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't flashy or dramatic. It was gentle and real, like the kind of kiss you want to remember because it makes you feel seen and safe. Afterward, when we pulled apart, I caught his eyes again and saw that same mix of excitement and nervousness I felt. We both knew this was the start of something. Neither of us said it out loud, but we didn't have to. The rest of the day blurred together. The parade floats, the dancing, the endless sea of rainbow flags. But underneath it all was this quiet current between us, something that didn't need words to exist. Later, as the sun dipped low and the festival started to wind down, Jamie turned to me and said, "So, same time next year? Or maybe we could just grab dinner sometime before that." I grinned, still feeling the glitter stuck to my skin and the warmth of that first, unexpected hug. "Definitely. But next time, maybe leave the glitter bombs to yourself." He laughed, that same infectious laugh, and I knew whatever happened, I wasn't just walking away with a handful of sparkles. I was walking away with something a lot brighter. After that day, things moved at their own pace, which was both nerve-wracking and kind of perfect. I mean, there was no rushing it, no "let's be exclusive by next week" pressure. Just two guys figuring out what this glitter-streaked connection meant. Jamie and I started texting a lot. At first, it was the usual, "Hey, how was your day" stuff, but pretty soon we were sending each other little snapshots, him with weird hats on, me with my sad attempts at cooking dinner. What surprised me was how easy it was to talk about things I'd usually keep to myself. Like, I told him about the times I'd felt invisible, even around friends who knew I was gay, or how I still sometimes caught myself doubting if I was enough. He didn't judge or try to fix me. He just listened, and that made all the difference. One evening, maybe a week after Pride, Jamie invited me over for dinner. I was kind of freaking out because I'm not the best host or the best date material, but I said yes anyway. When I got to his apartment, the first thing I noticed was that there was, no surprise here, glitter scattered in tiny piles on his coffee table and shelves. Like he was still carrying a bit of that Pride Day magic around with him. He greeted me with that same infectious grin and a sparkling hug. "Welcome to Glitter Central," he joked. We made dinner together, which was mostly Jamie bossing me around while I chopped vegetables. We drank cheap wine, played a ridiculous playlist of 80s hits, and talked about everything from our favorite movies to the weirdest things our families had said about Pride. It was comfortable and chaotic, and I loved it. At some point, Jamie got serious. "Can I be honest about something?" he asked, looking a little vulnerable. "Always," I said, heart kind of skipping. "I'm scared," he said, voice low. "Scared of getting hurt again. I've had relationships where I gave everything and got nothing back. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth putting myself out there." I nodded because, honestly, I'd felt the same way. Yeah, I get that, but I also think if you never try, you miss out on the stuff that makes it worth it. He smiled, reaching for my hand across the counter. I'm glad you're here. That night ended with us sitting close on his couch, the room dim, except for the soft glow of fairy lights. We didn't rush anything, it was just two people, figuring out what it means to trust, to hope. Weeks slipped by, and we fell into an easy rhythm. Coffee dates turned into movie nights, and casual texts became long conversations about dreams and fears. I found myself looking forward to every little thing with Jamie. The way he scrunched his nose when he laughed, the way he remembered stupid details about my favorite books, the quiet moments when we didn't have to talk at all. But of course, it wasn't all perfect. One night, after a few drinks at a friend's birthday party, I saw Jamie tense up when someone made a joke about gay stereotypes. I could tell it hurt him, even though he tried to brush it off. Later, when we were walking home, I asked if he wanted to talk about it. He hesitated, then said, "Sometimes it feels like, no matter how far we come, there's always that shadow. Like the world's telling you you don't belong." I squeezed his hand. "You do belong. Here, with me." He looked at me then, eyes shining with something I can only describe as relief. "Thanks for saying that." There was a quiet strength in Jamie that I hadn't fully appreciated before. The way he faced things head on, but didn't let the hard parts define him. Being with him made me want to be braver, to show up more fully in my own life. One Saturday morning, about a month after Pride, Jamie called me early. "Come over," he said, voice breathless. "I have a surprise." When I got there, he was in the middle of setting up a mini photo gallery on his living room wall. Polaroids from the festival, selfies of us laughing, and hand-drawn pictures of rainbows and hearts. In the center was a photo of that first hug. Me covered in glitter, Jamie beaming with that ridiculous sparkle. "I wanted to remember that day," he said. "Not just the fun, but what it started." I pulled him into a hug, glitter and all, and whispered, "Me too." In that moment, it wasn't just about a festival or a random hug. It was about finding someone who sees you, accepts the messiness, and still decides you're worth a second glance. And honestly, after everything, I think that's the most beautiful kind of glitter there is. That photo gallery Jamie put up wasn't just decoration. It was like a little shrine to us, to that chaotic, glitter-streaked beginning. Every time I looked at it, I felt this surge of warmth, like I was holding on to something fragile and beautiful at the same time. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was a reminder that what we had was real, even if it didn't fit into some neat box. But as much as I loved those moments, there were still parts of me that hadn't quite caught up with my heart. I was still the guy who sometimes kept his guard up, who worried if he was moving too fast, or if he'd screw it all up. Jamie, on the other hand, had this fearless kind of vulnerability that both inspired and terrified me. One night, a couple of weeks after the gallery surprise, we were sitting on his balcony, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the city lights flicker under a blanket of stars. The air was warm, and there was a gentle hum from the street below. Cars passing, distant laughter, the kind of background noise that makes you feel grounded. Jamie was unusually quiet, tracing circles on his glass with his finger. I figured something was on his mind, so I asked, "What's up?" He sighed, looking out over the city. "I've been thinking a lot about the future, about us." I felt my stomach tighten. "What about it?" He turned to face me, eyes serious. "I want this to last, not just a summer thing or a fun story. I want to build something real." The honesty in his voice hit me like a wave. I wanted to say the same, but my words got caught somewhere between my heart and my mouth. Instead, I reached out and took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Me too." He smiled, relief washing over his face. "Good. Because I was scared you might not feel the same." I chuckled softly. "You'd be surprised how often I'm scared of that too." That night felt like a turning point. We weren't just two people sharing moments anymore. We were stepping into something deeper, even if it meant facing the scary parts together. A few days later, Jamie invited me to meet some of his friends. I was nervous as hell. Meeting the people important to someone you care about always feels like a test of some kind. But as soon as I walked into the cozy little cafe where they gathered, I felt welcomed. Jamie's friends were warm, funny, and genuinely kind, and they made space for me without any awkwardness. One of them, a guy named Marcus, gave me a knowing look and said, "So you're the one who survived the glitter hug, huh?" I laughed, feeling instantly at ease. "Yeah, apparently I'm tougher than I thought." Jamie elbowed me playfully. He's a keeper. That night, as we left the cafe, Jamie slipped his hand into mine. "Thanks for being you," he said quietly. "It means a lot." I squeezed his hand back. "Thank you for letting me in. But life has a funny way of testing even the best things." About a month later, I got a call from my mom that shook me. She'd been diagnosed with a serious illness, and suddenly, the world felt heavier. I didn't want to burden Jamie with it, not right away. I felt the old urge to retreat, to shield myself from pain. But Jamie surprised me. The next day, he showed up at my apartment with a care package: comfort food, a soft blanket, and one of those dumb but hilarious movies we'd watched when things were lighter. He didn't ask a million questions or try to fix anything. He just sat with me, letting me lean on him. One night, after a particularly hard day, I broke down. Jamie held me while I cried, whispering, "You're not alone, I'm here." That simple truth kept me grounded when everything else felt like it was slipping. I realized then that love isn't just about the glitter and the grand gestures. It's about showing up when things are ugly and hard. Through the weeks that followed, Jamie became my anchor. We navigated doctor's appointments, tears, and tough conversations together. I saw a side of him that was fierce and tender all at once, and I loved him more for it. There was a moment not long after when we were sitting side by side on my couch. The room was quiet except for the soft ticking of a clock. Jamie looked over at me and said, "I want to be part of your life, all of it, the good, the bad, the messy." I met his gaze, feeling the weight of his words. I want that too, more than I ever thought I would. We leaned into each other, the world outside fading away. In that silence, I knew we were building something that glitter couldn't capture, a love strong enough to face whatever came next. And honestly, that's the kind of sparkle I'll always chase. Over the next few months, things settled into a strange but comforting kind of normal. I won't lie, it was tough. My mom's illness was this heavy, constant shadow that followed me home every day, but Jamie was always there, steady, warm, and never once complaining. It's funny how some people just show up, no matter what, and make you feel like you're not walking through hell alone. One chilly evening, after a long day at the hospital, I remember dragging myself into Jamie's apartment, feeling drained and defeated. He was waiting with a pot of soup simmering on the stove and a playlist of soft jazz humming in the background. The place smelled like rosemary and garlic, comfort in culinary form. Without saying a word, Jamie pulled me onto the couch and wrapped me up in his arms. I just let myself collapse into him, exhaustion pressing down like a weight. For a while, neither of us said anything, just breathing in rhythm, the kind of silence that feels full, not empty. Eventually, Jamie broke the quiet. "You know," he said, voice low, "I think you're stronger than you give yourself credit for." I scoffed, but it wasn't harsh, more like the kind of disbelief you feel when someone sees something in you you can't see yourself. "I'm just holding on." "But you're doing it," he replied, "and you're letting me hold on with you." I looked up at him then, this mix of gratitude and something deeper I couldn't quite name. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Jamie smiled softly. "You won't have to find out." That night, curled up on his worn-out couch, I realized how lucky I was to have found someone willing to stick around when life got messy. The glitter from Pride felt like a distant memory, but the sparkle we created together, that was something I wanted to chase forever. A few weeks later, Jamie surprised me again. This time it was with a simple invitation to a picnic in the park. We packed sandwiches, some of my mom's favorite cookies, Jamie insisted we bake them together, and a bottle of sparkling water. The day was crisp and bright, with a light breeze that rustled the leaves above us. We found a quiet spot under a big oak tree, sprawled out on a blanket that Jamie had brought. As we ate, we talked about everything and nothing, the kind of easy conversation that feels like home. At one point, Jamie reached into the picnic basket and pulled out a small notebook. "I've been writing things," he said, cheeks flushing. "Poems mostly, bad ones." I teased him, but he wasn't kidding. Over the next hour, he read me some of his work, raw, honest, sometimes funny, sometimes painfully vulnerable. I was amazed by how much of himself he was willing to share, how much he trusted me. When he finished, I took the notebook and looked him in the eye. "You're incredible," I said. "Thank you for trusting me with this." Jamie smiled, eyes shining. "I want you to see all of me." I reached across and kissed him, the kind of kiss that's a promise and a question all at once. As the season shifted, so did our relationship. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were building. We talked about future trips, moving in together, even the terrifying idea of meeting my mom's doctors as a team. It wasn't always perfect. There were disagreements, moments of frustration, and days when the weight of everything threatened to pull us under. But through it all, we kept choosing each other. One evening, a few months after that picnic, Jamie and I went to a friend's rooftop party. The city stretched out below us, lights twinkling like stars that had fallen to earth. We danced under the night sky, surrounded by friends and strangers, but all I could see was Jamie. At some point, as the music slowed, Jamie pulled me close and whispered, "I love you." Those words hit me harder than I expected. I'd felt it for a while, but saying it out loud made it real, in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. I looked up at him, heart pounding. "I love you too." We stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the city sprawling endlessly around us. In that moment, I knew that glitter or no glitter, hugs or poems, laughter or tears, what we had was something rare and beautiful, something worth holding on to, no matter what. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. After that night on the rooftop, everything felt like it was shifting. Saying "I love you" out loud made the whole thing real in a way I hadn't quite been ready for, but also made me want to lean into it harder. Like this wasn't just some passing phase or a fun distraction. It was the start of something I wanted to fight for, even when life got messy. But, of course, life had its own plans. About a month later, Jamie's work schedule suddenly went haywire. He's a graphic designer, and a big client landed on him with a last-minute project that meant late nights and weekends locked in at the office. I tried not to let it get to me, but the shift was hard. Instead of our usual easygoing hangouts, I found myself sitting alone in his apartment more than I liked, surrounded by the faint scent of rosemary and leftover glitter from his last craft experiment. I remember one Friday night in particular. Jamie was supposed to meet me for dinner, but he was stuck at work again. I sat at the table, staring at my phone, refreshing the message thread that stayed stubbornly silent. I tried to tell myself it was fine. Work stuff happens, right? But when the clock hit 10 p.m. and I still hadn't heard from him, the loneliness crept in. Finally, a text popped up. "Sorry, crazy day. I'll make it up to you." I replied, "I miss you." He read it, but didn't respond right away. That silence felt heavier than the words. The next day, I saw Jamie briefly at one of our mutual friends' get-togethers. He looked exhausted, the sparkle in his eyes dimmed by stress. I wanted to reach out, but the words got caught in my throat. Later that week, I decided to bring it up. "Hey," I said softly one evening when he finally had a break. "I miss you. Feels like we're drifting." He sighed, running a hand through his glitter-flecked hair. The sparkle never seemed to fully leave him, even on his worst days. "I know. I'm sorry. Work's been hell, and I hate that I'm not here the way I want to be." I nodded. "I get it, but I don't want us to lose this. Us." Jamie's eyes softened. "Me neither." We talked for a long time that night, about balancing work and us, about being honest when things get hard. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and somehow that made it feel like enough. Still, the distance that crept in during those weeks left a mark. I caught myself overthinking every text, every missed call, wondering if Jamie still felt the same way. Maybe it was just the exhaustion talking, but I started to feel scared. Scared that the glitter and the magic were fading, that the foundation we'd built was cracking. One afternoon, I was sitting by the window, scrolling through old photos of Pride when Jamie came home early. He looked worn out but determined. "I've been thinking," he said, sitting beside me. "Maybe we need a reset. Time away from work stress, just us. I want to remember why we started this, glitter hugs and all. I smiled, feeling a spark I hadn't felt in weeks. I'd like that. So we planned a weekend getaway, a small cabin upstate, away from the noise, the deadlines, the constant buzz of city life. Just two guys, a wood stove, and a chance to breathe. The drive there was quiet but comfortable. Jamie reached over and took my hand, fingers intertwining like they did back at that Pride festival. When we arrived, the cabin was rustic but cozy, surrounded by towering trees and the kind of silence that's loud in the best way. That evening, we made dinner together, laughing over burnt bread and spilled sauces. Afterward, we sat by the fireplace, warmth flickering across our faces. Jamie looked at me and said, "Thank you for not giving up on us." I leaned in, resting my head on his shoulder. "I'm not going anywhere." The days that followed unfolded slowly. We went for hikes, drank too much coffee, shared stories under the stars. We talked about fears and hopes, about the future we wanted to build. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were truly present. No distractions, no stress, just us. On our last night, Jamie surprised me again. He pulled out a small box from his bag and handed it to me. "What's this?" I asked, heart already pounding. He shrugged, cheeks tinged pink. "Just something I've been working on, for us." Inside the box was a delicate charm shaped like a tiny rainbow heart, glitter embedded beneath the glass. I looked up, stunned. "Jamie, this is beautiful." He smiled, eyes shining with that familiar sparkle. A little reminder that even when things get messy, there's always light. And that I'm here, glitter and all. I hugged him tight, feeling the weight of everything. The hard days, the good days, the promise of more to come. Driving back to the city the next day, I knew we couldn't control everything. Work deadlines would come, life would throw curveballs, and there would be moments of doubt. But as long as we had each other, I was ready to face whatever glitter storms lay ahead. Because some hugs, glitter covered or not, stick with you forever. Back in the city, after that weekend away, things didn't suddenly become perfect. Jamie's work was still demanding, and my mom's health continued to be a roller coaster. But somehow, the weight felt lighter, not because the problems disappeared, but because we'd found a rhythm that worked for us. We learned to talk more openly when one of us needed space or support. We celebrated small victories, a day with no hospital visits, a project completed at work, a home-cooked meal. And when life got overwhelming, we reminded each other of that little rainbow charm, the promise that even in the messiness, there was light. One quiet evening, a few months later, Jamie and I were sitting on his couch, the soft hum of the city outside our window. I caught his eye and smiled, feeling a peacefulness I hadn't known before. "You know," I said, "I never thought a hug covered in glitter would lead me here, but I'm glad it did." He grinned, reaching out to tuck a stray bit of glitter behind my ear. "Me too." It was messy, unexpected, and totally worth it. We sat like that for a while, hands intertwined, sharing a calm that felt like home. Looking back, I realized that day at Pride wasn't just about the glitter or the parade. It was about finding someone who sees you, glitter, scars, fears, and all, and chooses to hold you anyway. That kind of connection doesn't happen every day, and when it does, you hold on tight. Jamie and I aren't perfect. We argue, we get tired, sometimes we forget to say "I love you" enough. But we've built something real. A partnership rooted in honesty, patience, and a whole lot of glitter. And honestly, that's more than enough.